Hi, this is Amy Romeo from the jewelry making and craft blog amyromeo.com, and on this channel I like to share fun and easy jewelry making and craft projects. Today in this video I have a really fun craft project for you using faux leather heat transfer vinyl and a Cricut. I designed a shark keychain that I'm going to show you how to make from start to finish. It's perfect for summer or Shark Week, or if you're a shark fan, it could also be like a backpack tag and you could put a name on the back. It's a really fun one. So if you're ready to learn how to make this project, let's go ahead and dive in. Let's start by going over the tools and materials I'll be using to make this really cute shark keychain from faux leather heat transfer vinyl and a Cricut. I'll be using the Cricut Maker, but you could also use the Maker 3, the Explorer Air 2, the Explorer 3, or even the Cricut Joy. And that's because I'm using the fine point blade that comes standard when you buy your Cricut machine. You don't need a special blade to cut faux leather. I'll show you some of my tips and tricks for getting good cuts and also my recommended cut settings when we get into that part of the tutorial. So the faux leather that I'm using is a sheet of gray. This is sort of a matte, it's not very shiny. Because it's a shark, you could use any color of gray or blue, a dark blue, a light blue. It's really up to you. Faux leather comes on sheets and it also comes in rolls. And I'll link to where I bought all of these supplies and materials to help you in your shopping. But again, you can use any colors you like for this project. Then I'm using some heat transfer vinyl. So here I have a light blue heat transfer vinyl. I have a white, and then I have glitter red for the inside of the mouth, which is really fun. And then just a black heat transfer vinyl for the eyes. To press the heat transfer vinyl onto the faux leather, I'll be using my Cricut Easy Press Mini on the low setting. You can also use a regular Easy Press set to about 265 degrees, or you can use a larger heat press. You'll just want to experiment a little bit to get the right amount of pressure so you don't flatten out your faux leather. I'm using a heat pressing pad to protect my surface when I'm pressing, and also a little Teflon cover sheet. This is a larger Teflon sheet used for pressing t-shirts, and I've just trimmed it down to a smaller size. You could also use butcher paper or parchment paper as a cover sheet. I'll be using some blue painter's tape to tape my material down to the mat. I'll be cutting with the purple strong grip mat for the faux leather, and I'll be using the green standard grip mat for the vinyl. If you're using the Cricut Joy, you can use the small green mat that comes with the Joy. That'll work just fine. I have some craft scissors, some small curved scissors for trimming little detailed areas. And then the glue that I'll be using is some Fabri-Tac. You can use a fabric glue like this, or you could use a really good craft glue like the Bearly Art Glue. I just like a nice thin glue. Something like E6000 will work, but when you spread it, it's a little bit thicker and you might get some lumps and bumps in your keychain. I'll show you some tips I have for getting a really nice flat keychain as well. Then to make the keychain part, I'm using a 1 1/4 inch split key ring. I get these on Amazon. And then I'll also be attaching an optional tassel. Again, these are from Amazon and they come in different colors of faux suede and also different color caps. So I'm using a silver colored key ring and I'll use a silver topped tassel. Finally, I'll use some 10mm jump rings to attach the key ring and the tassel together once we've assembled the keychain. I'll also use some jewelry making pliers to do that. So let's hop into getting the SVG from my shop, and then I will show you how to get it uploaded into Cricut Design Space. We'll get our mats prepared and ready to cut. So to make this project, you'll want to get the SVG for the keychain from my SVG shop. I have hundreds of SVGs in my shop for keychains and earrings. At the time I'm recording this, I don't have the SVG for this project in my shop yet, but by the time you're watching this video, it will be there. You can click on the link here on the screen or get the link in the description. It'll bring you to a product page, just like my taco earrings SVG, and you'll see that you can either choose a personal use version or you can choose a small commercial use version, which gives you a commercial use license to sell physical products made from my designs. Then you'll check out and you'll receive an email and you will download the SVG folder. The folder will be zipped and you will need to unzip it before you can upload the unzipped SVG file to Cricut Design Space. So we'll start with a blank canvas in Cricut Design Space, and I'll click on Upload. and then upload image, and you'll want to browse to where the unzipped SVG file for this project is. You'll click on it to select it, and then it will appear here in your recent uploads row. Just click on it so it's highlighted with the green outline, and then click Add to Canvas. And you can see the SVG for the Shark Keychain is now on the canvas, and I wanted to point out you can adjust the size of this a little bigger or smaller if you wanted to. And if you're using the Cricut Joy, this size is a little large as it is for the regular green Joy mat. You could resize it by dragging this little handle here. See that size arrow? You can drag it larger or smaller. You can also change the size up here. So if you're using the Joy and you want to resize it, either drag it a little smaller so it fits on your mat, or you can use the longer Joy mat, the one that's 12 inches long, for this project. Then here in the layers panel, we can see Design Space has separated out all of our layers for us by color. So I'm going to go ahead and click the Make It button. And I'm loading my materials on a mat. And the first thing I'm going to do is just click through on each of my mats, and I'm going to mirror the image. And that's because heat transfer vinyl and faux leather cut in reverse, which is face down on the mat. So you'll want to cut them in reverse and mirror them. So let's go ahead and make sure each one of these is mirrored. There we go. And then I like to go through and on each mat and just sort of drag the shapes apart a little bit, drag them a little bit away from the edge and also away from each other just slightly. When I'm finished dragging all the shapes apart, then I'll click back on the faux leather mat. That's the one that I want to cut first. So I'll click Continue. And for this mat, as I mentioned, we're using the regular fine point blade that comes with the Cricut. And for that, we use the faux leather paper thin setting. If you don't have this setting here as a favorite like I do, you can click on Browse All Materials and search for it. If you're using the Explore Air 2, you'll want to turn your dial to custom before you can search for and find this setting. So I'll click on the setting, and then I always use more pressure. So the other mats, I'm using a combination of glitter heat transfer vinyl and solid heat transfer vinyl. You'll want to cut your mats based on the recommended cut setting for your particular material. I'll talk about what cut settings I'm using when I get to cutting those mats. But now what we'll do is we'll hop over to my overhead camera and we'll get our faux leather layer cut out, and then we'll cut out our vinyl layers with the Cricut. So the first thing we want to do is trim the faux leather down to a smaller size, and the way we can get this size is by looking at the mat preview screen for the faux leather mat in Design Space and seeing how big of a piece of faux leather we need to put on the mat to cut the shape out completely. We don't want to put a large piece of faux leather on our mat because it just doesn't give us as good of a cut. And I won't go into too much detail about it, but if you want to learn more about all of my tips and tricks for getting great cuts with faux leather, I'll leave a link for my other video in the description and also up top here. So I've just put my faux leather piece that I've trimmed down to size. I put it down here on my mat, and you can cut with scissors, or I just used my little rotary tool and I just made a little slice here. So this is pretty side down, and our mat is already mirrored, so that's set. And now I'm just going to use some blue painter's tape and tape around on all sides so this faux leather is nice and secure on the mat. And you can see I'm reusing some pieces of blue painter's tape. I use blue painter's tape a lot, and I like to recycle it, and I'm able to use it 3 or 4 times before I need to throw it away. So I'm just going to press this down well with my fingers. If you have a brayer, you can roll over it with a brayer too. We already have our material setting of faux leather paper thin with more pressure set to go. So I'll just load the mat and then begin the cut. So the faux leather cut setting is actually an automatic double cut. So the machine has cut the material twice. But I still like to take a sharp weeding tool and just lift up an edge and make sure that the cut went all the way through. It's a good idea to do this always before you unload your mat, because you can rerun your cut very easily if the cut did not go all the way through. I find that I need to rerun the cut, I would say about half the time when I'm cutting faux leather. So if you need to do that, it's completely normal. So this cut looks like it went went through nicely, so I'm going to go ahead and unload the mat. If you needed to repeat the cut, you would just, as long as you haven't unloaded your mat, press the cut button again and it will begin the cut. You can also press the rerun button on your screen in Design Space if you're using the Cricut Joy. So we'll unload the mat and we'll remove our faux leather. And now I can show you a little better how this works. So this is a fold over keychain. So the top and bottom will fold over. Our little key ring will be here, and then our shark face will be on both sides. So now I'm going to return to Design Space and start cutting out my vinyl mats. So I'm using red glitter vinyl for the little mouth. So again, I'm going to look on Design Space and see how big of a piece of material I need to cut the shapes out completely. Just going to trim that off, place it shiny side down on my green standard grip mat. And when I cut glitter heat transfer vinyl, I use the glitter vinyl setting with default pressure, and I repeat the cut one time when I'm using this thick Caesar glitter heat transfer vinyl. You may not need to repeat the cut, but that's a little tip if you're using the Caesar glitter like I am. So we'll go ahead and load the mat, and we'll cut out this mat. So the glitter heat transfer vinyl mat has cut twice, and I'm just going to peel this off the mat, and then I'll use my sharp weeding tool. You could use a pin pen weeding tool, or you could use the hook weeding tool, the Cricut one, whichever one you prefer. And I'm just going to go ahead and peel off the little mouth very carefully. There's lots of little sharp edges here, but I always test my designs for you, and I made sure that this one would cut well even from glitter. Just get that last little part off. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is repeat the cutting process. I'm going to go through the 3 other regular heat transfer vinyl mats, get them cut out, and then I'll show you how to heat press the vinyl onto the keychain and glue it and attach the tassel. So I've just finished cutting out all of my vinyl mats, and I was just using regular heat transfer vinyl. So I use the vinyl cut setting with default pressure. I also like to use washi sheet from time to time, but again, you'll use the material setting that corresponds with your material. You can usually find that on the manufacturer's directions on the box or the roll, or you can Google them and search them, how to cut such and such material, and you'll be able to find those directions. So the first thing I want to do is use my small scissors and trim apart all of my vinyl shapes. And you'll see that I do have a lot of space of this clear cover sheet around each shape. And I recommend that you keep as much of that as you can. Whenever you have a cut edge like this and you press it onto faux leather, sometimes that cut edge can leave an indentation. So the closer we can get the edges of this clear transfer sheet off of the edges of our faux leather, the better our result is going to be. So I'll just go ahead and trim these apart. And I wanted to show you on the little eyes. See how they're sort of spaced apart? That's on purpose, and you don't want to cut them apart. This way, with them attached the way I have for you in Design Space, you'll be able to just place them down right where they go together, and you're not trying to line them up individually. So there's that one. I've got this one. And we'll just cut apart our little mouths. I have my Easy Press Mini all warmed up on the low setting, and I also brought over a heavy book because we're going to use that when we glue. So we'll go ahead and move our sample out of the way. What we're going to do is put our little faux leather shape on our heat pressing pad. I have my cover sheet handy, and I have a layering guide for you on my blog, and I'll leave a link to the blog post for you so you can see which order I press these shapes in. You can also pretty much tell from the sample here. We're going to press the light blue first, then the white, then the red, and you can press the eyes at any time. So we'll start with our light blue layer, and I'm going to line that up at the very bottom. So you want to have this sort of centered on the faux leather keychain base, and then also with an even amount of gray showing through on the sides. So we've got that there. I'll just put my little Teflon sheet, and now I'm going to press with this for about 10 seconds. If you're using a regular easy press, you don't need to be moving it like I am. That's just something I do out of habit with the Easy Press Mini because it reminds me of a little iron. So we've pressed for about 10 seconds. I'm going to carefully peel back this cover sheet. If when you're peeling the vinyl is lifting up or you're seeing bubbling, just place it right back down and repeat the pressing process for another 5 to 10 seconds. But this looks pretty good, so we'll just peel that away. And then you can either do this layer on both sides and then, you know, go like that, or you could finish one whole shark and then flip it around, which is what I think I'll do. So here, I'm going to put the mouth. I can look at my little sample here, or this is a great time to look back in Design Space at your SVG and just see how the layers relate to each other. So here I'm looking to see that there's a little tiny gap. The white starts a little bit away from the bottom edge, so that's where I'm going to place the bottom parts of this white shape here. Those are the teeth. So again, we'll cover and press. And then we'll add our little mouth. This is so cute in the glitter red. When you're pressing glitter, sometimes you get some little specks of glitter residue on your other vinyl layers. That's okay, just let this cool completely and you'll be able to just flick them off with your finger or with the end of your sharp weeding tool. Now we'll put the eyes, and I want the eyes to be kind of down here. They're pretty close to the blue, but not all the way to the blue. Again, this is a good time to refer back to the layering guide or the art in Design Space. And there we have the one little side. Isn't that cute? So do you see that the faux leather is curling up a little bit because of the heat? That's totally normal. What I'm going to do is just place it here on my work surface and put my heat pressing pad on top just to let it cool for a minute or so underneath something a little bit heavy while I prepare my next layers to press. Now I'll just repeat pressing the shark on this side, and then I'll show you how to attach the key ring and glue the shark keychain together, and then we'll attach the tassel. So I finished pressing the other side of the shark, and I just put it underneath my little heat pressing pad again to flatten it a little bit. I think it looks really cute. And now we're going to attach the key ring. So what I like to do is attach the key ring first before I glue the fold over keychain, and that's just to reduce the stress on this little tiny bridge piece where we're not trying to slide the split ring key ring on there. So all I need to do is sort of roll the shark a little bit here, roll it up into a little bit of a tube, and then slide the key ring on. And then what I'm going to do is get my Fabri-Tac glue. Again, you can use any good fabric glue you like, or the Barely Art glue, any kind of good craft glue. And what I'm going to do is just start by spreading the glue pretty close to the edge, but not all the way to the edge. All the way around like that. And then we'll fill in the whole inside part. And that way, the glue will seep to the edge a little bit to seal that edge, but it won't spill out. Also, we want that glue to get up to the edge a little bit so that it makes a nice firm seal and you don't see a gap on the side. So we've got that part glued, and now I'm just going to make sure the key ring is moved out of the way, and I'm going to fold over the keychain and then make sure that the front and the back shapes line up so we don't see any gaps. We don't see the other side of the faux leather peeking through. Isn't that cute? If there's any glue that is sort of seeping out of the side, you can wipe that up with a little damp paper towel. And as you can see, it doesn't look right now like it's going to be glued firmly, but it will because of this cool little trick I'm going to show you now. So I'm going to take my keychain and I'm going to place it under my heavy book with my keyring sticking out so that the book can be as flat as possible. And we're going to let this sit here for a few hours so that the keychain completely dries. And then you'll see how nice of an edge we're going to get because it's been pressed firmly and those faux leather sides are going to seal up nicely. So let's let this rest for a few hours. We'll come back and we'll attach the tassel. So our keychains have been drying for a few hours. I checked on it about 30 minutes after I put it under the book just to see if I needed to wipe up any glue from the edges, which I did. And then we can see how cute that looks. And see how nicely that edge is sealed. It's very thin and firm. That looks fantastic. That's great. So let me show you how easy it is to attach the little tassel very quickly. Again, these are faux suede tassels from Amazon. They have all different lengths, colors. You could also do a cute charm. I did want to mention, if you were making this for a boy's backpack, for example, instead of doing the shark face on the other side, you could always write out a name with heat transfer vinyl instead, a name or a phone number or something else identifying the child for the backpack, and that would be a really cute backpack tag, no tassel needed. But I'm just going to open up a 10mm jump ring. And I'm going to use my flat nose pliers. Just grip the jump ring on either side with the pliers, open up the jump ring, attach it to the little tassel, and then attach it to the key ring. And that's it. The little shark keychain is complete. I hope you like this project and you are going to make a shark keychain yourself. Let me know in the comments if you love it or if it's just too silly. I had a lot of fun designing it, and I love to bring fun and original ideas to you so that you can craft along with me using your Cricut. If you liked this faux leather keychain project, I have so many more here on my channel, and I will link to the playlist for you. Just keep watching and it'll start playing and you'll be on to your next project. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.